baby cakes. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Yanta Ade Lebele, per usual, and you are here so we can talk about episode 6 of Shadow and Bone. Before we get started, like always, please subscribe, like, talk to me in the comment section. For the 6 of you guys who are watching this with me, thank you guys so much for coming back and talking to me below. I appreciate you guys so much. Okay, so the episode starts off with the Darkling going to find Arkin. You guys remember at the end of the last episode, Arkin has killed who he thinks is Alina. My favorite part of this is when the Darkling gets there, Arkin is like, yo, I didn't kill anybody. I was hoodwinked. I was swindled. I was befuddled. The second someone starts saying shit like hoodwinked and swindled, they did it. Whatever they said they didn't do, they did. You don't start pulling out language like that unless you fucking committed a crime. Arkin comes up with this lie about the crows doing the whole thing. He tells the Darkling that he came from the other side of the fold with the crew, but he knew something was off about that. And he tells them that he's been following them this whole time and he saw them kill Alina. The Darkling is obviously unimpressed. He's just like Ivan, and Ivan's like, the man's lying. And the Darkling's like, listen, you're not on any of the manifests, so now I know that you crossed the fold a different way. You didn't come over like everyone else. Arkin's still a terrible liar. He's like, no, I'm an entertainer. Sir, like, get your lies together. Like, have you not had to lie about this before? Like, what the hell's happening, Arkin? And as Arkin is trying to lie about this, the Darkling grabs his sleeve, pulls it up, and he can see how many times Arkin has gone across the fold. And the Darkling knows immediately who this man is. It's the conductor. And the Darkling is pissed because the conductor has been smuggling Grisha out of the palace. This man is responsible for a bunch of Grisha either defecting or just straight up like leaving the country so that they never have to be a part of the Grisha army. And the Darkling's like, yeah, you've been helping people get out of serving in this war. And Arkin tries to lie his way out of this, but he can't because Nina has been spying on him for the Darkling. That is why Nina has been in Ketterdam. She's actually been there on orders of the Darkling to spy on the conductor. And she told the Darkling in her last letter that she'd be crossing over the fold with some rogues. And the Darkling has put everything together by this point. He realizes that Arkin set a deal with General Zlatan. I have the hardest time saying this man's name. He has set a deal with him to basically get over here and kill Alina. Darkling even says the man was trying to play assassin, and Arkin, that's when he finally drops the facade. Man, you didn't have a facade, but he drops the facade and is like, yes, I did come over here to kill Alina. What we need to know why General Zlatan would want Alina dead is obvious. He does not want a sun summoner who's going to destroy the fold and make it easier for East and West Ravka to come together. He does not want that to happen. He wants to keep West Ravka its own nation. So that's why General Zlatan wants Alina dead. And Arkin, thinking that he killed Alina, was like, listen, the reason I made a deal with him was he was going to give me $1 million that I'd have to myself versus the $1 million he'd have to split 4 ways with the crows. But hey, since Alina's already dead, I can go and get revenge for you on General Zlatan. So he offers the Darkling a deal. Let me go and I'll go get your revenge. And the Darkling's like, nah, I'm good, bro. And he starts to walk out and the room fills with darkness and it chokes and kills Arkin. R.I.P. Arkin, you were real good at your job, but you sucked at lying and we gotta let you go. In a different part of East Ravka, Alina has been traveling kind of in that trunk with the crows. And she realizes that she's stuck in there. I'm sure they locked her in. So she pulls out a magnifying glass. Bitch, where did you get that from? And she uses the magnifying glass and her powers to get the lock on the inside of the chest hot. And then she pops it through with the pair of scissors that she also had. And she breaks herself out only to come face to face with the crows. Yes, we have not ever had this happen in the books, by the way. Like, the crows never meet Alina. So it is so wonderful to have their like tete-a-tete, to have their face-to-face for the first time, and for Inesh to see her. You know, like, Inesh is meeting her saint. Like, oh, I love this moment. And they try to offer Alina a deal. Like, hey, we know you need to get across the fold. In fact, we have a way to get across the fold. Them thinking they can use the conductor's train. Y'all don't know how to use that shit. And that they will be able to help Alina get across. Obviously, they're going to double cross her, right, if they get back over the fold and give her up to Dreesen. But for now, they're trying to like offer her a little bit of help. Alina, at this point, she doesn't trust anyone. Remember, she even ran away from Bagra. She does not know who to trust. So she's like, no, thank you. I will make it on my own. Kaz and Jesper both try to go after her, but she just blinds them, boop, boop. And Nash does not want to harm Alina at all. Like, this is her saint. So Inesh is all like, girl, you can go. And she lets her go. Meanwhile, back at the little palace, Theodor has come to the Darkling with information about what happened to Nina. He tells the Darkling that Nina was abducted by the Fjordans. And this is also the point where the Darkling makes clear that General Zlatan, who would have known that Nina was Grisha and there on orders of the Darkling, is the one to have betrayed her. As we learned a few episodes ago, General Zlatan has been letting Fjordans into West Ravka to capture Grisha so that he would have an allyship with the Fjordans against East Ravka. Theodore says that they lost Nina's trail because of the storm that happened with the ship and no one knows where she is. In a very strange turn of events, the Darkling sends Fyodor after Nina. I have no idea why a general in an army would send an entire group of people, possibly people that could get killed, to go after one person. It just wouldn't happen. But I get it. They need to have Nina brought back into the fold for whatever reason. They need to have Matthias get captured in a few episodes. But it didn't really make any sense from the point of view of, I'm a general in an army. One of my spies has gotten captured. Let me send an entire group of people to go get that one spy. It just wouldn't make any sense. We then flash to like Nina and Matthias in the sea with their broken apart ship. Did they run out of budget to either show the ship breaking apart, or did they run out of time in episodes and we're like, they'll get the gist of it, the ship broke down. I cannot believe they did not show us a scene of the ship breaking down. If you guys remember, the very last thing we saw with Nina and Matthias was the one of the Fjordans telling Matthias to kill all of the people if the ship started breaking apart. So what happened? Like, I want to know how this happened. How did Matthias not kill Nina? Did the ship break apart so quickly they couldn't do it? It's just very funny to me that like they just decided to jump straight to like, yeah, the ship broke. And you're just sitting there like, okay, but what happened? And they're like, the ship broke. And you're like, okay, did you give me? No, the ship broke. And I'm like, okay, no details. Excellent, moving on. So Nina has found a piece of the ship and she's trying to swim towards it. And Matthias is on there kind of like little knocked out Matthias. And she grabs him and she works on getting his heartbeat to speed up. And he wakes up and he's like, oh my God, witch, you're trying to hurt me. And she's like, bitch, if I was trying to hurt you, I would have killed your ass before now. I would have slowed your heartbeat down, not sped it up to get your ass warm. Eventually, Nina is able to convince him that she's only there to save him. And if he can do all of the swimming to shore, she can keep them warm the whole way there and that they will stay alive. Even this is a little unbelievable in the books. Like, how are y'all swimming to shore like miles away? But, you know, whatever. Nina and Matthias are hot. So we're okay with that. We then cut to Alina wandering around Rybos. It's really interesting. Even though she's the sun summoner and literally called Sancta Alina and is a saint to these people, because she is part Shu, they don't know that who she is at all, right? Everyone at this point thinks the sun summoner is just a white blonde girl, like all of their saints probably are depicted. So she's able to just kind of like walk around without anyone knowing exactly who she is. Hey, racism! Back in the little palace, Zoya is summoned by the Darkling, who's putting together a team of people to go after Alina. And Zoya's like, hey, listen, boss, I know you want to go after Alina, but I don't think she was actually abducted. What if she actually ran away and was rescued by those people? And the Darkling is like, nah, our sun summoner, she would never do that. She would never do that. Ben Barnes is doing the best job he can with what he is given, but what we are missing to me is the inner life of the Darkling. When he said, no, the sun summoner would never run away, I went, oh, he actually does in some ways kind of care about Alina and believes that she really wants to be there. He really believes that she has a kindred spirit with him. But we don't get to see any more of that, and that is something that I'm probably going to complain about over the next few episodes. It becomes very clear in this episode that what was missing from the Darkling is any sort of complexity to his character. I've been talking to a friend of mine who is a big Reylo stan, a big like Kylo Ren, Rey stan. The realization of this week that relationship between the Darkling and Alina is very similar to the relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey. And there should always be a push and pull between the two of them, right? The Darkling wants Alina, Alina wants the Darkling, but she wants something different than him, he wants something different than her. There should be that push and pull. But we really don't get that because the Darkling is so one-dimensional in this show. He's a villain from start to finish versus a man who's been driven to do something like this. Now, I think in the next episode is when we get to see him back in the day and we get to see how he became who he became. But the show could have just kept going with that. I think all of us would not have minded if we spent an extra hour with Ben Barnes just learning about what the Darkling really wants and how the Darkling really feels about Alina. So Zoya is in his room and she's trying to say, you need to stop caring about Alina. She was never really like us, which is the wrong thing to say, Zoya, because the Darkling's like, yeah, that's how people felt about me when I first got to the palace. That I was alone. I was the one who was othered by the soldiers here. And it tries a different tactic. She's like, oh, remember when you were really stressed out, you used to call on me and I used to be able to make you relax. And she kind of like caresses his face. And that was the moment for me, again, where I was like, oh, they used to fuck. And that made me kind of hate the Darkling too, because I was like, of course Zoya is hurt. If you used to use her for your relaxation and you used to use her when you needed someone to talk to or have sex with, and then you just dumped her for Alina, just another reason why I was like, oh, fuck this guy. Like, you kind of fucking suck, Darkling. I know he's a villain, he's killed thousands, but like, I was willing to overlook that till he was an asshole to Zoya. So she's touching him and she's saying, you used to relax around me, and he pushes her hands away and he's like, I'll relax when I get Alina back. Just a fucking harsh move. And then he leaves the room and Zoya gets upset and like, you know, uses her squalor powers to shoot all of his papers everywhere. Oh, now you gotta go pick that shit up. See, that's why you can't be throwing shit around when you get angry. Who else is gonna pick this shit up? It's you. Nina and Matthias had finally landed on shore after an indeterminate period of time. And Nina, deciding to show off, I guess, is like speaking in Fjorden to Matthias, who is shocked because Nina speaks Fjorden like a native Fjorden speaker. And she's like, bitch, I'm a spy. I know 6 different languages. Thank you very much. And it's actually very funny because he gets on shore and he's like, I am a witch hunter. You are a witch and you are under arrest. And she's like, bitch, please, bye. Back in Rivost, Alina's walking through town and she bumps into a soldier who tries to assault her because not only is she part Shu, but she's an unprotected woman in the town. So he's like, oh, you're part Shu? Huh, why don't you come in here with me and my boys? As he's trying to tussle with her, she blinds him and is able to get away. And she runs into the woods, and what's so weird to me is all of the soldiers follow her into the woods. Like, it doesn't quite make any sense why all of the soldiers decided to go after Alina. And it doesn't quite make any sense why all of the soldiers decide to follow Alina into the woods, given they don't know she's a sun summoner. She's just a woman that one of their bros tried to sexually assault in the streets. So why is everyone in the army now following her into the woods? So Alina's in the woods and she can hear them and they're getting closer and closer and closer. But guess who finds it before they do? Mal. Yes, our babies are reunited. Then comes probably my second favorite scene in this entire fucking season. The first being Jasper with that goat. But this is also another wonderful relationship building scene. The best fanfic scene of all time. We have one whaler's hut and one bed. Nina and Matthias have found a whaler's hut, and the whaler is no longer there, which is nice and convenient. And Nina starts taking off her clothes because she needs to get warm. Guys, I love this scene so much. Nina has taken off her clothes and she's wrapping herself in blankets because she's trying to get warm and trying to get out of those wet clothes. And Matthias is trying not to look at her, and she flashes him a little bit and teases him about his prudishness. And she basically says like, get over it. Just take off your clothes, come over here and get warmed up, okay? Go over there, Matthias. He's finally like, fine, but turn around. Don't look at me while I'm undressing. And it is so great because Nina is sitting there and she's like, listen, there's nothing special about Fjorden men. I don't even know why you're making a big deal about this. And she finally turns around and gets a look at that body and baby, baby. Nina stares at this man. And the way Matthias, like, sir, how long are you gonna dry off your body? Because she's able to look at him for like a full minute and he's just there drying himself off, putting that towel around his waist for like 5 minutes. Matthias, you know what you're doing, sir. Nina is shocked by his body. So Matthias finally goes over to the bed, but he doesn't really want to get up on her all naked, and she's like, listen, just fucking do it. And he does. And they're both trying to act like they're not turned on by the situation. She's like, oh, you're so clammy. And he's like, oh, I don't want to be near you, witch. I know that boy had to already be like, blah, blah. As he's arguing with her, she grabs his chest to heat them up, and they share this like incredibly hot moment where she's grabbing him and he holds onto her arm, and they're both just like right there together, and then finally they break apart, and it is whoo! One of y'all told me that those actors are dating. I fully would believe it. They have such good chemistry, and it is truly the hottest scene in the show. Mal and Alina are obviously now on the run in the woods, and they're both kind of pissed off at each other. You know, Mal says something to Alina and she's like, oh, are you talking to me now? And Alina's like, where have you been for the past few months? And he's like, girl, I've been after you. And she's like, that cannot be true. You haven't answered any of my letters. And she even asks him, are you still afraid of Grisha women? Which again is a callback to when he said he was afraid of Zoya back in episode 1. And around this point is when they realize neither one of them has heard from the other. So they now both realize that the other person has not received their letters. Mal asks her, like, how long have you been keeping this a secret from me? Basically being a Grisha. And she's like, do you think I actually knew? I had no idea. Talk a little bit about the testing, and she's like, listen, I never wanted to be Grisha. And he's like, why would you never have wanted to be Grisha? You get to go to the little palace, you get to eat well, they train you. And she's like, you idiot, I would have been away from you, you dummy. And that is when Mal finally realizes, oh, she likes me. Yay! He gets a little smile on his face. I'm like, you dummy. Finally, Mal realizes she cared about him, and he tells her he's been trying to get back to her this entire time. And he tells her that he found the stag. And Alina obviously doesn't understand why he's even been looking for it, but he tells her that somehow a drawing of the stag, which he recognized as Alina's drawing, got back to him and he's been tracking it. He says he was tracking it for her. And Alina immediately recognizes that that used to be in her journal. So the Darkling has not only been stealing her letters, but he's been going through her journal, stole a page out and sent that over to the army. And then even though they're in the middle of being hunted, she's like, hey, did you like really send me letters? And he like does a little nod and they hug and I'm like, y'all, okay, I get it. Y'all are being chased, but can y'all just make out for 2 seconds? Let's just do a little make out sesh for me and then we can keep going. I'm also very happy that they hashed this shit out so quickly. In the books, Mal is broody and an asshole to Alina for so long, like for such a long period of time. I'm so glad that they basically were like, let's just have Mal be a decent human being and get over himself very quickly. Back in Rivos, Inesh finds Kaz kind of sulking at a bar. And Kaz is pissed off. He's like, hey, why the hell did you not have me and Jesper's back? When Alina blinded us, you could have caught her. And Inesh explains that the job was for them to catch a fake, but she was not actually ever going to capture a living saint. And Kaz is like, no, she's a con artist, and him and Inesh go back and forth because Inesh believes Alina to be real. Kaz tells her very rightly that they can't be worried about her religious zeal when they do jobs. And he finally lets slip that if they don't come back with Alina, then Tante Helene is gonna get the club. Inesh obviously had no idea that Kaz had done any sort of dealing with Tante Helene, and when she asks him about it, he walks away and she calls after him. He's like, what did you do, Kaz? Mal and Alina have finally stopped to camp out for the night. Obviously, they are freezing. They're probably getting closer to the Fjorden border as they look for the stag. And she notices that he is unwell. You know, he's wincing a little bit. Something's going on with his shoulder. We remember he got shot, but Mal is just trying to act like everything is okay. And even though they're both freezing, they can't start a fire because they don't want to get caught. And Alina's like, oh, great, so we'll just starve to death. And Mal gives her some food, and he's like, oh, I'm not worried about us starving to death. I am worried about us freezing to death. But this gives Alina an opportunity to show Mal her power for the first time. Mal has this just like wonderful look of amazement on his face, like he's getting to watch his best friend do her powers, and she's super excited about it. But Alina is still a little worried that her powers scare him. She says she saw fear in his eyes back in Kribisk when she used her power. And he looks into her eyes and he's like, Alina, I am so sorry it took me this long to finally see you. Lord have mercy, can y'all just kiss? Like, what are we waiting for? What are we doing here? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but if we both so obviously like each other, can we please kiss? Alina, what are we doing? You kissed the Darkling after like no seduction time. Fucking kiss Mal, please. At this point, let's just pull a Nina and Matthias. Take off the clothes and just get a little huddle. Just do a little huddle. Nina and Matthias know what's up. Speaking of Nina and Matthias, we are back at the whaler's hut, where these two kids are waking up and they've both been like spooning and cuddling all night. So they wake up and Matthias is trying to act like he has not been right up next to her booty the whole night. He tries to play it off and be like, oh man, I can't wait till I get back in my own bed. And she's like, bitch, you have morning wood. Listen, I know that you are lying to me. And he just hates the way Nina just is so open about sexuality and so open with her flirting. He calls her unseemly compared to Fjorden women who are saintly and pious and so good. She's like, no offense, that sounds like an unhappy life. He's like, no, he pushes back. He's like, Fjordens are not unhappy. They unhappy, Matthias, they unhappy. And she says instead of just sitting back like Fjorden women, Ravkan women are trained to fight. And Matthias is like, well, it is unnatural for a girl to fight. And Nina pushes back and is like, listen, I can't wait till a girl takes you out. In fact, it may be me. And this just makes Matthias break down laughing. Now, wasn't this funny? No, Matthias, what's happening here? Like, are you going through shock withdrawal? Why are you laughing as if you never heard a joke? It is possible Fjordens do not tell jokes. So maybe this is the first joke he's heard in his life and that's why he's laughing so hard. And honestly, again, I love their chemistry so much that I wish that shipwreck had happened in episode 2 so we could just watch them flirt in a whaler's hut for all season. That's all I would have wanted from the Nina and Matthias storyline, to be honest. Back in that bar in Rivos, Kaz and Jesper are at the bar and they're talking, and Kaz is like, yo, we actually need to get out of town before the Darkling gets here. But you know who's already there? The Darkling. So the Darkling has arrived. He gets dramatically out of his carriage because the man can't do anything without drama. And the Grisha had been searching the town, so they actually find the carriage that the crows stole. But the crows are so smart. I love this. As they're opening the carriage door, it explodes and it warns the crows that the Darkling has got into town. Kaz tells them that they need to all split up because it's easier to go one-on-one with a Grisha than a whole group at a time. Very smart thinking, Kaz. As they're leaving the bar, a Grisha Inferni who looks just like Molly Shannon, she is the sister of that Inferni that Inesh killed. She recognizes Inesh as the person who killed her brother, and she's like, nah, her, I'm gonna fucking kill her. So as they all run in different directions, each one of them is then followed by a different Grisha. Ivan follows Jesper into what looks like a launderer's place or a sheet factory. Jesper's trying to shoot at Ivan, but remember, his Ketsa is bulletproof, so none of those bullets are hitting him at all. And Ivan is able to follow Jesper through this place because he's able to listen to his heartbeat. Ivan finally thinks that he has found Jesper and pulls back some sheets, but it turns out to be a little boy. Sir, why are you here? Ivan puts the boy to sleep so he can more easily listen to Jesper's heartbeat in that launderer. We then cut to Inesh and that Inferni fighting viciously. Again, she looks like Molly Shannon, right? We cut back to Jesper when he finally shoots Ivan, but he doesn't kill Ivan because that little kid shows up and Jesper's trying to be the bigger man. Ivan is on the ground and he's looking at Jesper and he's like, what are you? And Jesper's like, blah, 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 blah. And no, Ivan's like, no, what are you? Are you? And Jesper knocks him out. I'm gonna give y'all a real quick spoiler. Fast forward 5 seconds if you don't want the spoiler. It's something I've already said before. Jesper's Grisha. That's why Jesper's such a good sharpshooter. Keep that in mind, I love that fact. And that's why Jesper shuts him up. Inesh is finally able to get one over on Polina. Polina being the Inferni Grisha twin. And she stabs her, I think, in her lungs. And she tells her not to remove that knife until a healer comes along. Polina insults her, calls her a slur basically, and tells Inesh that she will track her down, kill everyone she loves, and then kill Inesh. Polina. And Inesh is like, well, in that case, and she pulls out the knife and lets Polina drown in her own blood. Now, this was another missed opportunity, I thought, for the show. Like, at this point, Inesh has killed one person. When you kill your second person, should you not also show some remorse? Like, I just don't think you go straight from, I don't want to kill because of my religion, to, I will fucking kill everybody. Like, I just thought this was another opportunity we could have showed Inesh dealing with the fact that she has, again, taken another life. But the show just very quickly kind of goes through it. Then Jesper finds Inesh bleeding and then kind of takes her away, and then that's it. And again, I just wish we could have taken more time with Inesh's evolution. What I'm realizing through these rewatches is how much of the character development they're just trying to get through so fast because we only have 8 episodes, and I think everyone in the show deserved at least another 2 to 3 episodes, to be perfectly honest. In a scene that I wish was a little bit longer, the Darkling finds Kaz and is just like, where are you holding Alina? I know you kidnapped her. And Kaz has to tell the Darkling, no, she actually fled. And the Darkling doesn't believe this. He's like, no, tell me where her position is. Kaz is just like, we don't know where she is. And he tells the Darkling she probably fled to Novi's Yem. She didn't want to be a captive of the Grisha anymore. And the Darkling pulls out his darkness and is about to kill Kaz when Kaz explodes a powder keg and is able to get away. Honestly, the Darkling probably could have killed him quick, but I think the Darkling is in shock. For one of the first times in the show, we actually see hurt and dismay on Ben Barnes' face. He is genuinely hurt by finding out that Alina ran away from him. I needed so much more of this. Like, my God, can we please have a moment alone with him for him to deal with the depths of this betrayal? He thought she was on the same page as him. Was he lying to her? Absolutely. But he did feel a connection between her. So to find out she ran away from him without even letting him explain is very hurtful for him. And I wish we had just gotten to have more of that versus immediately after this, he turns into a straight villain. You know what I mean? For the rest of the episode, he's just mad and a full villain. He's gonna find Alina and do whatever he wants to her, and that's a damn shame. The next morning in the woods, we see Alina treating Mal's wounds with a poultice that she learned back in the orphanage. Looking at the depths of his wounds, she's just like, what happened to you? And he explains that when they went to go find the stag, they were near the border of Firda, and they ended up being attacked by Firdans. And he has to tell her that Mikhail and Dubrov were killed. But Alina now starts coming up with an idea. She asks Mal if he told the Darkling where the stag was, and he tells her not exactly. He kind of pointed to a vague point on the map, but not exactly where he found it. And she realizes that if she can find the stag, it will amplify her power, and she may now have the chance to destroy the fold and get there before the Darkling does. There's also a moment where you can see something in her eyes where she kind of wants the stag's power for herself as well. I love that they kind of tried to add this in because something that happens in the book is Alina does want power. And you start to wonder what she's gonna want to do with that power. She keeps saying destroy the folds, she keeps saying help people, but the fact that she is obsessed with finding the amplifiers is an interesting character turn, so I hope they keep playing with that as the seasons go along. Back in Whoever the Fuck Knows, Alina and Matthias are wandering around a cold tundra. And Matthias is trying to act like he knows where they are, but they are clearly lost. And she's trying to flirt with him, but he won't do anything back with her. And she's like, will you please just relax? And that's when Nina realizes the reason he won't relax around her is because he's afraid he will start liking her. And then he will start seeing her as a human. And she asks him, would that be so terrible if you finally decided to see me as human and not some evil witch? And he says, yes, it would be horrible because you are loud and lewd and treacherous. And he's wondering if she's using her Grisha powers to make him start liking her because he is starting to like her. He doesn't know if he can trust those feelings. It's just really cute because he starts to get closer to her and her to him, and she teases him a little bit and is like, yes, I'm using my Grisha powers to seduce you, and he's giggling. And that's when the ground breaks. I don't even fucking know, like, what were you standing on? Why the fuck did the ground just break? And there's a whole chasm beneath your feet. And there's this moment where she's on the ledge, she's falling into this chasm, she's on the ledge, and she's looking at Matthias like, help me. And you can tell Matthias is like, if I let her die, then I would have done my job. But he decides to save her in that moment. That is a moment from the books as well. It is something that, again, happens in the prequel to Six of Crows, but it is something that happened between them. And at this point, she has saved his life and he has saved hers. Finally, when she gets out of there, I think he realizes the depths of their relationship, and he finally introduces himself and gives her his name. And then she gives him her name. And they talk about how wonderful it is to finally meet each other. Oh, guys! These are moments that, again, we don't get in the books, and I love them so much in the TV show, and it makes me so sad for what happens in the events of book 2. I will not spoil it here. Just, if you are liking Nina and Matthias, maybe don't read book 2 of Six of Crows, because, like, back in Rivals, Cass finds Jesper and Inesh and sees Inesh bleeding, and there's this look of just, like, pure panic on his face at seeing Inesh bleeding so freely. They realize that she's too injured to travel, they can't take it by horseback, and they've got to figure out another way out of town. That's when they see the Darklings coach, and if you guys will remember, the only person still in that coach is David. And if you'll remember, David is a duress. He does not really know how to fight, he's an inventor, so he throws his book at Jesper's face, tries to get out the other side of the carriage, but he is hit in the face with a wrench by Cass and goes down. Man should be dead, but like, y'all know he's alive. The Crows get away in the Darkling's carriage. The Darkling finally comes back and they're like, should we go after them? And he decides not to go after the Crows because now he realizes they don't have Alina. Alina has run away from him, so the best course of action for him is to find Alina in those woods. David mentions that a ring that Genya gave to Alina is actually made of a specific type of metal, so when they're within 1 mile of that ring, he'll be able to track Alina. Just another major betrayal of Genya, and again, if they had really strengthened the relationship between Genya and Alina, that betrayal would be felt stronger. As it is, it just feels like Genya was a random person who betrayed Alina, and that's that. Which really sucks because their relationship is one of the strongest in the books. In the woods, Mal and Alina continue to track the stag, and they've gotten closer and closer to the border of Firda, so it's getting colder and colder. Mal finds Alina some berries, and they're kind of walking through the woods, and she's eating the berries, and she's like, oh my god, thank you so much, I could have eaten some more. Alina, you ate 3 berries, of course you could eat 5 more berries, like what the hell? And it's funny because, as I've mentioned before, in the books, Alina is super duper weak and never had an appetite, but here, Mal is like, oh wow girl, like yeah, you got that appetite, like it looking real good on you, like it looks like, you know, you've gained a little weight, it looks so good. Y'all didn't even need to include this in because you never made it a point of Alina being weak. It does not make any sense to have Mal talk about how she looks so much healthier now. She looks exactly the same from this episode from episode 1. You know what I mean? It was so silly. I get it. They were trying to make a point, but because they cut all of that other shit out, silly. But as Alina is talking about feeling better because of using her powers, that's when she realizes how Alexander, she uses the fucking name, she realizes how the Darkling has lived so long. Using his power has allowed him to live for centuries. And she's just throwing the Darkling's name around, and Mal is like, who is Alex? And she's like, oh, it's the Darkling. Oh, Mal, I have something I need to tell you. Probably gonna tell him about her relationship with the Darkling, and Mal's like, nah, I don't even need to hear it. Thank you, bye. Again, what I love about this moment is Mal in the books, he actually, I think, caught Alina and the Darkling kissing, and he's just super broody, and he's mad at Alina the whole time, and he's just a little whiny bitch. I love that Mal here is like, you know what, I don't really want to hear that, but that's still okay. He's not mad at her. He understood that she was having her own life. And I love that we don't have to just go along for another several episodes of him being mad at Alina. So just very good choice by the show. Back back in Rivos, the Darkling is interrogating those soldiers that initially were after Mal and Alina. And they think that Alina was a spy because they said someone in the First Army came after her. So obviously she's like a shoe spy, right? And the Darkling asks who came after her exactly, and they're like, oh, some tracker. And that's when the Darkling realizes that the tracker is Mal's with Alina, and they are after the stag. He is disgusted, he is upset. He says, oh, how adorable, just completely with like revulsion in his face and his tone. And he's obviously pissed that she ran away from him. And again, wonderful moments to see from Ben Barnes. Would have loved more of it. And with the Darkling realizing that Mal and Alina have run away to find the stag, that is where the episode ends. I know I have complained, I think, in my overall review about Nina and Matthias, but this episode was so fucking delicious and it gave me so much of what I was wanting, and I love that couple. I love them so much. So to get to watch kind of like their love story, the start of it, actually bloom, to no longer be on the ship, but actually see them interacting with each other, I loved it. I loved it so much. Like I said before, I am a little frustrated and or annoyed at how quickly Anesh has gone from being a no killer to being a killer. Again, character development in this show is really tough for some of the characters. Characters that are particularly morally gray, like the Darkling, Anesh, Cass, Jesper, all of them tend to be a little morally gray, right? They have to do what they have to do to survive. They kill, but they also can save. Not really the Darkling, but he's complex. But it's frustrating that we don't ever really get to watch any of them settle into that gray area. And we don't really get to watch it over the course of the rest of the season, so I'd be interested in seeing if second season will allow some more character development, some more character complexity. And that is it! I love you guys so much. I'm gonna run away because all of my neighbors are talking. The plumber is here, people are stomping, and I wanna kill somebody. So I'm gonna run away. As always, please like, subscribe, thumbs up. I love you guys so much.